What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Real Vibes here. We got Scoop here. How you feeling today?
Chilling, man. Great day to talk about some boxing. It was crazy hot today, but we here.
My bad, man. So if you don't know, man, it's another episode of the Uppercut Podcast. Every week we're gonna come with 2 to 3 vids, just breaking down current events, giving our favorite takes, um, just doing any type of boxing related content. Maybe it be games, maybe a rating fighters, maybe talking about cards coming up. So just make sure I stay on the lookout for all different vids. Today we got an interesting topic. One of my the legends of the past era, or is he still current? We don't know. Is he still here, or is he
Possibly.
someone in the past? The guy we're gonna talk about today is Errol Spence Jr. Um, you know, just to get us started, Earl. Before we get into like his career breakdown, we should talk about like him just rising up in some legendary stories. Like I remember when Earl first came out, he was linked to Floyd Mayweather. uh, Apparently he got either the best of Floyd or he gave Floyd the best run. Like at the time when Floyd was, still undefeated, Floyd was still fighting fighters. Like Errol gave prime Floyd Mayweather a good run in sparring. You heard about that?
Yeah, so I basically know the little whole backstory on that. So Floyd had went to jail. I don't know if you remember, but Floyd went to jail.
Right, of course.
And Floyd was just doing like calisthenics, just push-ups and pull-ups. You can't really do too much in jail. And he came home, and Earl was one of the guys that was just now, he was Olympian, and he was making a scene on the pro level. And Earl was one of them guys that got, Floyd back to, the Floyd that we know.
Hmm.
And I think that attests to itself because, after all that happened, what did Floyd want, what did Earl wind up doing? Become a unified, welterweight champ. So I guess that speaks for itself. Like, if you can give Floyd some work, clearly you somebody, and
Absolutely.
Earl is definitely one of the great welterweights of the past. I would definitely say 10, 15 for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're gonna go down like this era. He's gonna go down as one of the best fighters, I would say. Over from 2010 to 2025, he was definitely gonna be, I would say, at least top 10, top 12. Especially considering how long he was great for, and what he was doing to some of the best fighters, just ripping them apart. Just to go into his style a little bit, I think he's one of the best body punchers we've seen
Yeah.
in a very long time, and or at least he's doing it at, or he was doing it at one of the highest levels. Um, he was one of the best southpaws, and everything seemed, I don't want to say easy. Some people will call it robotic. The way he would just break down opponents, and end up stopping them by later rounds. He used to just dictate fights. He was a great fighter, man. Like, you
He's
know,
like to me, like he's like a 1-2 kind of fighter, just a one and a
hmm
two. But he's like punishing you with the one and the two though. It's not like you
tactician. Yeah,
you
it's
rarely
sharp.
see him. Yeah, like you rarely see uppercuts from Earl. Like it's literally just a 1-2 and hooks. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's kind of like Devin Haney a little bit, but he's just like not as like slick. It's more so just like he's a punisher with the one and the two, which I find intriguing because it's like you don't gotta be a flashy boxer to be a winner.
You don't.
Earl's like I guess you could say the tailor made style for the one and two can get you, to the highest level. You know what I'm saying? And definitely appreciate his style. Very like people don't find Earl entertaining. I find Earl pretty entertaining.
Oh
Before the
yeah, for sure.
before the Bud fight, I was more of a fan of Earl than Bud, if I'm being honest with you. Like I
Mm.
knew more of Earl before I knew Bud. Like I've watched Bud, but like as far as like
And
a
that's an
fan, like
interesting. That's interesting you say that because Bud obviously was at 135, 140 to start his career. He kept getting bigger, obviously, but Earl was already established at 147 by the time Bud got there. Bud kind of started fighting dudes that Earl already beat. A lot of people were gonna start saying that, like of course, Sean Porter, Kell Brook. Who else are similar opponents they had? There's one more.
Kell
Ah,
Brook, Sean Porter.
I could be mistaken. I feel like it's one more, but even if not,
It
like
is. I feel like we definitely tweaking.
they have similar. I mean, common opponents, but Errol kind of beat him when quote unquote people say when they were better, when they're younger in their prime. So some people would give Errol more credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because
the
he
question of the
moved up
day,
a little bit later, so it was kind of.
the question of the day is, was just Terrence always, no matter what, that much better?
Now
Now,
this is a hot take right
in
here.
my yeah, like in my opinion, the way the fight went in 2023 when Earl Spencer Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford linked up, I don't see a world where Errol Spence will win a fight against Terrence Crawford. Now, don't get me wrong. We can't talk Errol Spence without talking the car crashes.
Absolutely.
What could have been? Did his body take how much punishment did his body take from the car crashes? What did that do to him mentally? What did that do to him physically? Did it mess up his fatigue? Did it cuz I feel like you can't just walk away from a car crash as like a regular old fall. That's not the
Yeah.
same. You feel me? I feel like those had an impact on him. Granted, if he doesn't take those car crashes, would he have had a better shot against Terrence? I think so. But I think Terrence still would have outpointed him or even still got the KO because KO, I mean, like we know with Terrence, Bud always figures out his opponents by sixth round anyway. He's kind of like Tink to where once he has you
He
figured
read
out,
a little bit, fix them
yep,
out, and get started. Yep.
and he starts going to work. I feel like Bud still possibly could have stopped Earl. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, say Bud wins the decision, but it's just an interesting topic. Like, what do you think Spence would have did against Bud if he doesn't get in any crashes?
I don't know, cause I want to say like nobody just gets in a car crash and you just perfectly fine, especially at elite boxer. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah,
fight people that are on your level or above your level. But I do feel like if he hadn't been in them car crashes though, definitely would have made a difference. And I look at it like this: after the car crash, he fought Ugas and beat
right,
Ugas up, closed his eyeball, punished him,
right.
like punished him. So I feel like without the car crashes, who knows? Maybe his 1, 2, 3 style could have really punished Bud. Like he has a very punishing, and he's a body snatcher, like you said. You know, had we get the Earl Spence before the car crashes fighting, Bud, and
Mm-hmm.
he's punishing them and giving them body shots. He spars Jamel and them all the time, and
Yep.
Jamel and them be saying, if I'm about to spar Earl, I'm putting on the ad protector because he punched the body. You got Jamel Charlo saying that. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like before the car crash, we don't really know. Like I feel like Bud is the better boxer, but I feel like Bud, like I said, he has that 1, 2, 3 punishing. Like it's a punishing style. Like he's gonna punish you. Like one thing about Earl, even though he wasn't his best in that fight, bro, notice how he still had that dog throughout all of that fight, bro. He kept getting up, trying to just get right back to work. And that's why a lot of people respect Earl. Even Bud, even Bud said, yo, I respect him. Like after the fight, he was like, bro, I don't like Jamel Charlo or nothing like that, bro. He over here doing this hot. He said, even though me and Earl fought, Earl still stand on the business that he say. He still do what he say he's gonna do. Like no matter what, he's him too. So you take away that car crash and who Earl is, because Earl's a dog. Earl's one of them
Yeah,
dogs. So
it's
I
crazy
don't know.
too. My bad, not to cut you off, but I think like the reason that people still gave Earl like such a fair shot against Crawford though is because after the first car crash, he goes on to beat Danny Garcia and Ugas, two of the best welterweights,
Yeah.
of the. So it's
That
just
hurt.
like
That hurt when he
that's
beat
how
Danny too. That hurt when he
it's.
beat Danny. That
Yeah,
was a
we're I'm a fan of all Philly fighters, so I know that
yeah,
probably hurt too.
yeah. That joint
But
stung,
I
bro.
didn't I didn't see Danny beating him. But that's another discussion for another day. I think
Yeah,
that he just showed that okay, even after a car crash, he's still a really good fighter. So I think that's why we still thought that he could still do it against Terrence. And maybe, like I said, we don't know how the car crash affected him. Maybe because he wouldn't give that as an excuse of to what happened against Bud. He doesn't say that's an excuse.
he just said he's the better man. That's what he said. He said he's the
Yeah,
better man.
so I definitely think it's interesting. Who do you think is the best person Earl ever beat? And or no, let me rephrase that. What do you think his best performance is? I should rephrase that. As we talked about the Danny
Uh,
Garcias, the Mikey Garcias, the Sean Porter Juniors, Ugas, Lamont Peterson. He got some names in there.
that was a good performance
Kel
too.
Brook.
I
You
feel
know.
like his best performance, I would have to go with Sean Porter. I really liked it, that fight
Mm,
between very like competitive fight. I feel like he was gonna beat Danny. Like I'm just a Danny fan, so I was rooting for Danny. But I was
mm-hmm.
like, he's gonna beat Danny. I knew he was gonna beat Kell Brook. But like Sean had a awkward style, like rugged kind of style in and
Yeah.
out. But then he'll box you
Yep.
sometimes. It's like you don't really know. So when I seen him beat him, I was like, yeah, he gotta fight Bud now. Like you gotta fight Bud now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Imagine if
saying?
it
So
happened right after. Because you got to think, he beat Sean 5 years ago. We've been asking for the
yeah,
butt fight for 5 years, bro. You got to
yeah.
keep that in mind, too. Because
But I
L was
will
at
say,
welterweight
not to
by
cut you off,
2019, I think 2020.
but that second car crash that Errol was in, it wasn't his fault though. That second one. The first one was, I think it was on him, but the second one, somebody was driving fast or something like that, and just crashed right into Earl. So that's just an uncontrollable thing, like
Yeah, very unfortunate.
you
Very
you can't
unfortunate.
even you can't even control that. But I would definitely have to go with Sean. What would you rate his best performance? I gotta go Sean on that one for sure.
Ooh, Sean, that Sean fight was like you said, it was gritty. It was great action. Like, and Sean a
Yeah,
dog. Sean, I feel like bringing out some of the best performances. Sean is one of those fighters that you have to bring out your best performance to beat him. Like, he's just a dog. He's a workhorse. If you don't come in the fight, you're losing that fight. He even gave Crawford a few problems. You could argue he
he was
was
up.
up. You could argue he was up on the cards before he got knocked down and ended by a great fighter in Bud, but to answer the question, I feel like his best performance had to be against Kell Brook. Because at the time, Kell Brook was the guy. Because
Yeah,
we got to think, this is 2017. Errol is Errol, but he's still trying to make a name for himself. His only big win at the time was like Chris Algieri for what's that's worth. He was a world
yeah.
champion, but we don't call Chris Algieri like a Hall of Fame or anything like that. So for him to step up to Kell Brook, Kell Brook had the bigger name, like I said at the time.
And he was in his country,
Yes, and
fought in his
for him
country.
to give him eye problems for the rest of his career,
Yeah,
and
broke his eye socket.
you know that was a great fight, but my
Yeah,
man Earl got the better of him.
yeah. Earl's a punisher, bro. Like that's like I would hate that fight Earl, a healthy Earl at 147. That would just be
Hmm
we gonna have a long
I
day,
think
bro.
he gives a lot of dudes problems. I'm talking about all time too. All time too, because he may
Yeah,
not have A+ knockout power, but he carries a punch.
he
He has
punishes you.
fast hands. He knows exactly where to be. He picks his shots correctly, very accurate with his shots. Like Earl is
Yeah.
very sharp. Like
Derek,
I don't know.
Derek James implements those shots that he throws too. Like Derek James is super fundamental on the shots they throw. If you notice, like with all his
Bro.
fighters, with Jamel, Alicia, like all of them, like you see, like even with Ryan when he was fighting Dev, like on their heavy bags, they got specific spots he wants them to like hit. So like they train punch you in a certain kind of way, which is why I feel like all his fighters inflict a certain amount of damage when they fight. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm
Earl is the best at implementing. I feel like out of all his fighters, like he goes all in. So I feel like that's why he's super damaging with his shots.
Another question I have. So Earl obviously sits at 28-1, right? That's not some people say consider a lot of fights, but I think that's just a testament to show like you don't need a 50 fights, 40 fights, 60 fights to be one of the greatest people of your generation. Like look at Loma for instance, like he was fighting world champion fights in his third or fourth fights. You know what I'm saying? I think Earl was another guy who, early in his career, I'm taking all the best dudes. At 19-0, he started taking on world champions. At 17-0, he took on like 18-0 or something like that. He took on Algeria. Like I said, a former world champ. That was his first like solid name on his belt. And since then, he's just been rising until obviously 2023 when the big Crawford fight. But I think for his prime, bro, Errol Spence Jr. was a problem. He was a pound for pound fighter. Like, yeah, real rap, real
He's the
talk.
reason why Bud was able to become pound for pound #1 when he won that fight, because it was two of the guys in the pound for pound top 10 fighting each other. Of
Hmm.
course, you got to be #1 after that. So I look at it like, even though he didn't win the fight, if it
And you
wasn't for
said
that, we
something.
wouldn't see, the one
You
of one
said
of the
something
high level
interesting.
fights. So what you
You
say?
said something interesting. Um, I think you're right. In terms of, I think if you're obviously a boxing head, you knew who Terrence Crawford was. Errol Spence, you could argue, was a bigger name than Terrence Crawford around like 2022, 2023. I feel like the casual fan may have known more about him for whatever reason. You know, obviously Terrence was undisputed before, but people don't think Terrence was fighting the best competition at 140. So that's why Terrence didn't start getting to become Terrence until he got to 147, which Errol was already dominating, if you know what I'm saying. So you could argue Errol Spence was an even bigger name, and that name got Terrence to being that,
That pound
that
for pound #1 spot. Yeah,
not even just pound for pound, just more talked about. Because I feel
yeah.
like Bud was not as talked about, kind of slept on. I'm not going to say under the radar, because if you know, you know. But I feel like he wasn't just a fighter that everyone knew about and just knew his whole game. What do you think about that?
For sure. I feel like it takes two to tangle, bro. Like, you can't have a big fight if you don't got another big name. Like, it take two to, make each other, in a sense, I guess you could say. So I feel like you need each other in a sense. Like, without another good fighter, you know what I'm saying, you won't ever reach that kind of level. So even though Earl lost that fight, he still won at the end of the day, which is why we need to see more of that in boxing. Fighters taking chances. Like the other day, I'm watching Tommy Hearns versus Leonard. I'm watching him versus Duran.
Hmm.
I'm watching Marvin Hagler versus Ray Leonard. Duran. I'm watching all these guys, and it's like, it's nothing wrong with taking a loss. Like, you can bounce back as long as you can say that you fought the best of the best in that time period. You can be considered a legend, and it doesn't matter. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
my
I
take
agree.
on that.
I agree. And with that being said, with the 28-1 record, with the names, obviously we listed a lot of his performances, a lot of his wins. Do you think he is a Hall of Fame fighter?
Yeah, I think so. Only
Do you think
because
he's accomplished enough?
I think so. I know he didn't get a belt in another weight class yet, but I feel like the level of the competition that he fought when he fought them solidify his name. Like, one thing, like I say about Danny, Keith, Earl, Spence, and Bud, is they fought a lot of the people in their primes, which is what what I'm saying. Besides Earl and Bud, I guess you could say, but besides them two, everyone, like, they all fought each other within that same period, which you gotta respect it. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's definitely he fought Danny when Danny was crazy on the scene. He
Yeah,
fought he
Danny, that
fought
was yeah, yeah.
he fought Sean when Sean was crazy on the scene. He fought Kell Brook, like you said, when Kell Brook was this major thing for the
For
United
what
Kingdom.
is worth, Mikey Garcia. Remember, Mikey Garcia went up to
Mikey Garcia
challenge
at
Errol Spence.
A&T
He
Stadium.
was
Yep.
he was a
Hmm.
champion. We can't forget about that one too, because Mikey, people were giving Mikey a
Mikey
solid
was
chance
pound for
against
pound.
Earl.
He was pound for
Yeah,
pound.
yeah, they
Mikey
was
was
giving
pound
him a
for
shot
pound.
against Earl, and Earl ended up, doing what he do. But that just shows what kind of fighter Earl is to make someone look like that, And it was supposed to be somewhat of a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, Earl Spence, bro. To me, it's like, I respect Earl Spence. I tip my hat, like you said, Chris Aldrin, Lamont Peterson, Ugas. Like, it's so many good fighters. When he fought them, it's like, you gotta respect it, and I definitely feel like he's a Hall of Famer for sure. I feel like, though, if he's able to come back and fight again, he will, and get another belt in a different weight class. He's guaranteed a Hall of Famer for
Oh
sure.
yeah, he's guaranteed a Hall of Famer, and that's just the last thing we was going to touch on. At 35 years young, um, we haven't seen him in the ring for 2 years. Last year he was supposedly in talks with a Fundora fight. Obviously, those talks fell through. What do you see? What's next for Earl? Do you think he's gonna retire? A lot of people are speculating that. Um, I've seen him sparring. I've seen him in the ring a little, training a little bit. He's posting vids on social media saying he's not done. Like, what do you just think of this whole Earl's next few years? Like, what do you think?
Well, when did Errol fight? But 2023 or 2022?
2023,
Okay,
July.
so it's 2025 now. This is my take on Errol and what Errol should do. I think Errol should go to 154. You know, Errol's 35 years old, so I feel like he don't need to put himself through that weight cut no more, or whatever it may be. I feel like if he doesn't fight by the end of 2026, I would definitely retire. Because then at that point, it's like you've been out the ring for too long. You took a lot of damage at last fight. I don't think like I feel like he's kind of like in the same situation as Keith Thurman. He just doesn't have no injuries as far as like layoff. You know what I'm saying? He's a little bit older. He hasn't fought. He hasn't been active. So I think what Errol should do is take a nice little tune-up fight at 154. Not like I want to say a tune-up, somebody that you could beat that can give you a little bit of buzz. You know, not nobody corny. You know what I'm saying? But definitely get somebody that's a okay at 154. And then I would go for Fundora straight up. Like I know it. I feel like he has a tailor-made style for Fundora. Like Fundora he's a tall figure. Fundora's 6'8", right? What does Earl do best? He punches that body. He's gonna punish you. And I feel like Tim Tszyu
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Tim Tszyu
Yep.
is the same kind of fighter Earl is. Earl just punch harder and he's a little bit more defensively sound than Tim Tszyu. You feel me? I feel like Tim Tszyu, if it wasn't for that elbow to his head when he got cut against Fedor, Tim Tszyu could have won that fight. But I feel like Tim Tszyu took a little bit
Yeah.
of damage within that. So now I don't feel like Tim Tszyu can beat Fedor. But Tim Tszyu before that, I feel like he could have beat Fedor before that elbow and all that. Like I feel like if he would have fought a smart game plan,
Yeah.
beat him. But now I don't know. Now I gotta lean toward Fedor because Fedor's a dog too. People forgot like even though he cut Tim Tszyu, Fedor nose got broke by Tim Tszyu, and he kept fighting him. His nose got broke. That ain't nothing. That's hard to do. Again, your nose broke and keep fighting, and all his blood is all over the place, and he got blood on him. You got to tip your head off the Fedor. But I just feel like Errol is like a Tim Tszyu, but better. And I feel like he got a tailor-made style. As long as he can stay defensively sound and snatch his body, I feel like he breaks Fedor down. And I feel like that's the person you got to go for. Like if he wants to come back on the scene, I would fight Fedor, and people will respect the shit out of him if he comes back and he beats Fedor. Then Tower Inferno, you know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying? 8 unified champ at 154 after one tune-up fight. Come on now, that's I feel like that's the move he should go. But you know, what you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that ain't crazy what I said. I feel like that's an obtainable thing. You know.
Yeah. Super obtainable. But only pushback I have, yeah, that Earl of the past was better than Tim Tszyu. Is this Earl in 2025 better
Yeah.
than Tim Tszyu? That's gonna be the biggest question mark I have. And I think Tim Tszyu could have won that fight. I don't want to make no excuses for nothing. That cut did mess up everything Tim Tszyu had going on though. I feel like you can't just get like headbutts, elbows. When you get cut by certain like that, just messes up a fighter's like mentality. I feel like mental. Like I feel like that threw Tim Tszyu off, and after that he just didn't stick to the game plan he should have to beat Fundora. But Fundora is still a tough fighter, and you can't not respect what he did. So I definitely still respect Fundora. I do think he's beatable, but I thought Tim Tszyu wasn't that beatable. So then again, I don't know. I don't know. That's why we fight. That's why we fight. You feel me? We never know what's gonna happen. But I would love to see Errol Spence back in the ring. I know he's had the eye. What was the surgery? The cataract surgery or the he
Yeah,
was
the little
dealing.
side John. I think you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just hope that's okay. I would never want him to risk his eye or risk more punishment. For later down the line. He's 35 years old. He's made a lot of money. If if that is the reason he can't fight no more. Hey man, I gotta respect it. You had a great career. Um, he's a perfect. He's a great role model for boxing. He's somebody the kids could look up to. Obviously, he hasn't done too bad besides a car crash, but that's not really bad. That's just stuff that happens. Can't really. do too much. But besides that, he's a really good dude. I respect his career. I think he's a Hall of Famer to add on as well. A lot of good names. The list is even gonna look better over time. Honestly, the people he beat. So whatever he decides to do, I'm gonna respect it. I've always been a fan of Earl Spence. I feel like he's one of the guys. If you like the sweet science of boxing, that's one of the guys you should be looking at first. Like that's someone. Yo, go watch Earl Spence. Like that's someone you go say, yo, go watch him fight because I think you'll like the way he fights.
Also, to say real quick, I had Earl being Bud, bro. I lost so much money that day, bro. I
Mm,
lost so much. I
mm.
lost so much money, bro.
That would
Every
have
time
been a
I,
heartbreak,
every time I think about Earl, I just like, damn, Earl, you lost
bro.
five
It's
hundred
crazy.
dollars.
I had It was the same thing I'm thinking on this Canelo fight. Bud would either, but I got it. It's crazy. I got the exact opposite. So I thought Bud either would have knocked Earl out like he did, or Earl wins by decision. Same. Now I got it twisted. Now I think Canelo beats Bud by knockout, or Terrence wins by decision. Like I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
it's one of
crazy.
those two things. Like it's so crazy. I thought Bud looked and felt stronger than Earl going into that fight. I feel like he was the more.
Dominant.
Earl is a dog too, but Terrence, I seen he had a
He
dog in him as
outdogged him. He
well.
in the
Yeah,
corner
like
like this. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, like,
yeah,
cause he was waiting on that fight for like 7 years,
yeah.
bro. They
Because
was
also Terrence, his biggest fights in Omaha and stuff. Terrence wasn't making that much money, or like he wasn't having the biggest fights. The fights everyone wanted to see.
yeah,
The fight in the, you know what I'm saying. His name wasn't as big as Earl's. We talked about that. His name just wasn't as big as Earl. So for him to
facts.
on that stage and seize it like that against Earl, that was big for Bud. I can
That
only
was his
respect that.
moment. That was his moment,
Yeah,
bro. That was
yeah,
his moment, bro.
100%. 100%. But that wraps up this video, man. I hope y'all enjoyed. Comment down below what other fighters y'all want us to talk about. They could be fighters close to retirement, fighters who just getting their career started, fighters in their prime. We're down to talk about anyone, man. If y'all want us to talk about legends, talk about potential matchups, previous matchups, um, even matchups that we make up in our mind, like who do y'all think will win between Earl and Tommy Hearns? If y'all want us to do stuff like that, just let us know down in the comments, and we're definitely gonna be on it, man. It's your boy Vibes. Scoop, you got anything to say?
Yeah, hit the description, y'all. Follow all of our social media platforms. We're gonna put them in the description so you can stay updated with our content and when we're gonna drop. And I appreciate y'all for tapping in, man.
Yes, sir. We out.